Good evening again. Since the title of this talk is Developing a Fine Mind, we all might have, I thought it would be helpful to define what a fine mind is so that we know what to aim for. The Buddha said that it was best to have a mind that was thus concentrated, purified, bright, unblemished, rid of imperfections, pliant, malleable, steady, and inclined toward imperturbability. It's a tall order. I studied for a number of years with Lee Brasington, who's the author of the book Right Concentration, which is about the jhanas of really increased concentration. Lee has a great memory, and he's a great storyteller. And the sentence would just roll off his tongue. A mind that's thus concentrated, purified, bright, unblemished, rid of imperfection, pliant, malleable, steady, and inclined toward imperturbability. So it's helpful to know what we're after. We need to train our mind. The Buddha said an untrained mind is like pulling a fish out of the water and throwing it on dry land. It flops around. A concentrated mind, however, he said, is like a calm lake, unruffled by any breezes. So in that long description there, let's just start with the first word, concentration. When we concentrate, we unify the mind. There are 4 levels of concentration. The first level is pleasant abiding in the here and now. So let's just start there. We all know how to concentrate. Say we're peeling the skin off an apple with a sharp knife. We better stay mindful and concentrated if we don't want to cut ourselves. And as the Buddha says, we can sharpen that knife. We can raise our concentration in order to attain more purified levels of awareness. Not only do we want to raise our concentration, we can also do that only if we cut out what's unhelpful. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's Manjushri, a deity who wields a very sharp sword to slice through ignorance. And in Buddhism, ignorance just means things that we're not aware of. It's not a pejorative word. So the sharpness of a knife or a sword gets our attention. And our attention is a highly useful internal tool for seeing through our ignorance. Then we can raise our level of concentration to experience higher consciousness and awareness. Being attentive and mindful doesn't lead to awareness, but it can lead to concentration, which can lead to awareness. The next questions are, what's the difference between mindfulness and concentration, and how do we build concentration? Mindfulness is defined as paying attention in a specific way without judgment. Concentration takes more of our brain power. We need to enlist our energy, our attention, and our focused intention, and need to set everything aside that gets in the way. In other words, it takes work. Not exactly hard work like digging a ditch, just a different kind of work we might not be so familiar with. There's a lot that gets in the way. First off, there's what are called the hindrances. We're more apt to use our brain power to think about our desires, what we'd like to do, who we'd like to be with, where we'd like to go, where we'd like to go on vacation, where we'd like to go on vacation after that, the next vacation. These are considerable, our desires. Our ill will. We're often just plain lazy. We might be restless. anxious, or remorseful. And then there's our doubt. Is this going to work? Who knows if this is going to work? So with all that going on, plus whatever else is going on, we really haven't got enough brain power left to be able to concentrate. We've got too much going on in our heads. It's like clutter. The Buddha said there are 5 impurities of gold, impaired, by which it is not pliant and wieldy, lacks radiance, is brittle, and cannot be wrought well. What are these 5 impurities? Iron, copper, tin, lead, and silver. But if the gold has been freed from these impurities, then it will be pliant and wieldy, radiant and firm, and can be wrought well. Whatever ornaments one wishes to make from it, be it a crown, earrings, necklace, or a gold chain, it will serve that purpose. Similarly, there are 5 impurities of the mind, impaired by which the mind is not pliant and wieldy, lacks radiant lucidity and firmness, and cannot concentrate well to get rid of these hindrances. What are these 5? They are desire, ill will, sloth, and torpor. Aren't those great words? That's laziness, sloth and torpor. Restlessness and remorse and skeptical doubt. But if the mind is freed of these 5 impurities, the Buddha said it will be pliant and wieldy, will have radiant lucidity and firmness, and will concentrate well once these hindrances are out of the way. Whatever state realizable by the higher mental faculties one may direct the mind to, one will, in each case, acquire the capacity of realization. If all other conditions are fulfilled. So I love that last line. If the other conditions are fulfilled. We're not going that far this evening into the other conditions. We're just building our concentration tonight. Going back to what else gets in the way of building our concentration, I love what Mary Oliver said. It's a silver morning like any other. I'm at my desk. Then the phone rings or someone raps at the door. I am deep in the machinery of my wits. Reluctantly I rise, I answer the phone, or I open the door, and the thought which I had in hand, or almost in hand, is gone. Creative work needs solitude. It needs concentration without interruptions. It needs the whole sky to fly in, and no eye watching until it comes to that certainty which it aspires to, but does not necessarily have at once. Privacy, then, a place apart, to pace, to chew pencils, to scribble and erase, and scribble again. But just as often, if not more often, the interruption comes not from another, but from the self itself, or some other self within the self that whistles and pounds on the door panels and tosses itself, splashing into the pond of meditation. And what does it have to say? That you must phone the dentist, that you are out of mustard, that your Uncle Stanley's birthday is 2 weeks hence. You react, of course. Then you return to your work, only to find that the imps of ideas have fled back into the mist. So well said. It's just like that. Then we use our self-compassion, patting ourselves on the shoulder, taking a deep breath, congratulating ourselves, and beginning again. The other things that seriously get in the way are what the Buddha called the 3 poisons: greed, hatred and aversion, and delusion. I really want to thank Jeff Frazier, Teresa Miller, and Susan Stone for this series last month. And if you missed it, you can hear it online. This series, as well as working directly with the hindrances, brings more understanding and transparency to what gets in the way. When we combine this transparency with the truth of impermanence, it helps the grasping and clinging strength of them to evaporate. We break down their power by our constant effort. Going back a few steps, it's helpful to think of two of our brain modes, discursive and focused. We use both of these modes all the time for different reasons, and rather than liking one more than the other, it's more helpful to develop flexibility between them. Say you're at a meeting. You start off focused and then drift into discursiveness. And you want the ability to come quickly back into the focused mode. To be able to go back and forth like that, think of the brain as a network where different regions connect for different tasks. There are literally millions of ways different parts of the brain can connect. For example, pretend for a moment you're going to put on your coat, walk outside, get in your car, and go from here to the downtown mall. Observe your brain map which route to use. Okay, there are a couple of ways to get there. Now, what if I asked which was the fastest? Just observe your brain, calculate that. How many stoplights? How many stop signs? How much traffic can I expect? So this game is kind of enjoyable and actually awesome. The brain is awesome. And can you get the sense of different parts contributing different bits of information? Using the incredible brain tracking machines we have these days, we can literally see how our brain chooses parts of ourself, parts of itself, to best connect the dots. Studies show a London taxi driver has developed a map of the city in his head. We have different connections for discursive and focused modes. For example, for discursive, it might be that the posterior part of the cingulate gyrase might connect with the anterior part of the hippocampus. This connects with that connects with that. I've forgotten all the names of how the brain structures connect. But in general, there's one set for discursive, and then the whole set shifts for focused. This is amazing. And this is just the beginning. So the pattern shifts. A number of years ago, there was a large study, a huge number of participants in many countries, and data was collected by cell phones. People doing all sorts of activities, taking a shower, doing their taxes, playing golf, etc. They were interrupted often and asked to rate their level of happiness doing the particular activity they were doing at the moment. These activities were both discursive and focused. We do both. We go back and forth. Researchers found, interestingly, that people reported being happier when doing focused activities. It's been a long time now. It's actually been 16 years since Richie Davidson at the University of Wisconsin in Madison used an fMRI and discovered that when people meditated, they shifted their brain's network connections to access more positive thinking. Meditators shifted, quite unconsciously, from using the right prefrontal cortex to using the left. People who meditate become happier. That research set off the mindfulness revolution. I used to keep up with the research, but now there's so much of it, it's impossible to keep up. We know that mindfulness is just a part of Buddhism, but it's an important part that has led many people through its gate and into Buddhism. Being mindful can take you only so far. It can take you into concentration, and then it's the concentration that can take you into awareness, insight, and wisdom. This process is often called a gradual training or a gradual awakening. So let's go back to our original questions. What's the difference between mindfulness and concentration? And how do we build concentration? So let me walk you through it. First, let's stretch a minute. Roll your shoulders, stretch out, take some deep breaths. And then settle back in a relaxed way into the earlier meditation. So we'll start off using our attention to bring us to mindfulness. When I stop talking, you might be concentrated. If not, it's okay. Glimpses are always good. And wherever you're at when I stop talking, just stay. Like you're training a puppy. You're training that puppy. Just stay. You will have reached a reasonably good place, and you want to hold it and inhabit it. Not for long, for about 3 minutes. Okay. So we'll work hard and end up just for 3 minutes. So as you close your eyes, or look at the floor, and settle back into your body. You might want to notice if it's easier settling in now than it was at the beginning, or if it's about the same, or it might be more difficult. Doesn't matter. So like we did before, just check your shoulders. Check your abdomen. Check sitting on the chair. Your feet on the floor. Pretending, if you want, that your feet extend to the floor, through the floor to the earth. Up through that energetic opening at the top of your head, right up to the sky. So it's like you're breathing. Through the whole vertical sense of yourself. Being held by these great horizontals. So say to yourself the words in and out in conjunction with your breath. So breathing in, you say to yourself in, and breathing out, say to yourself out. And just keep doing that for a bit. You might choose to extend the word in to the whole in breath and out to the whole out breath. Or you can think of them, say them to yourselves quickly. Doesn't matter. So we've moved into mindfulness. We're paying attention in a specific way, in a non-judgmental way. And then let that go and put your attention on the beginning of the inhalation and the ending of the exhalation. So attention on the beginning of the inhalation and at the end of the exhalation. And then let that go and extend the length of the exhalation so it's a long exhalation. Longer than the inhalation. And then let that go. Just breathe normally, and at the end of the exhalation, you'll notice there's a pause, sort of at the bottom of your breath, before the inhalation. Keep noticing that pause as you breathe. So that pause at the end of the exhalation before the beginning of the inhalation. Then let go into that pause. Give yourself over to that pause. Inhabit it like you live there. Then be that pause and stay. This is the hard work. Just stay there. It's kind of a relaxed diligence. Keep being that pause. One more minute. And then very gently let loose of it. Keeping your eyes closed, just notice how you feel. How your body feels, how your mind feels. So this is the muscle that we want to build. The concentration muscle, in order to develop a fine mind.